So, highs and lows of life. Everything's always perfect for us, right? That's what we want to put across to people that we've
Mhm.
got it together. That's why I wrote a book about great love for life and all that stuff.
You mean this one?
Yeah, very subtle. Very well done. Yeah. Um, so we're going to make this short. We're coming a little early because we got a crazy day ahead, and Mark is on his knee down here, so we can't make this longer. He'll start complaining, So we have had a lot of really good times in our lives.
Mhm.
Agreed. But we've also had struggles because life is life.
Mhm.
For you,
And I forgive you for all those things.
they were always my fault. Ladies, if you can just accept that it's always my fault, then your relationship will be a good one. That was a joke. What?
It's quite the opposite.
If you both just realize it's always my fault, then
Mhm.
usually. What to you was one of the hardest seasons of life?
Well, to date, I would say there was a stretch between 2000 and 2010 where we lost 4 family members on my side of the family: my brother, my mom, my grandmother, and my grandma. So both grandmothers.
And to add to that, there were also 2 family members, like grandmother, uncle, that, just I also, it was just one of those times. But go ahead.
Yeah. So it was, it was a time where we were new to California, and we were trying to make it work out here financially and career wise, and have young kids and all those typical struggles.
Mhm.
And then compounded by those kinds of things. So really, um, kind of a crazy time. There was a lot of good moments, like you said earlier, in that 10 years too, but spreading 4 close family, they weren't like they were estranged grandmothers or anything. We were close to all of them.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of rough time.
Yeah. What were some things that you feel like got you through?
Well, I'm not proud of every way that got me through. Some of it was working hard, focusing on work, and trying to keep my nose to that grindstone. But, on the better side of it, probably, clinging to you and the kids, and just spending time together with family, and God was the way we got through it. And it wasn't like an overnight process. Obviously, it's a 10-year thing. So
kind of a slow build up into a season.
Yeah.
And to add to that, we had 4 fairly young kids. You were gone quite a bit during some of that time.
Yeah.
Working. You might want to scoot in just a little. See your cute face.
Okay. What about you?
The very, very hardest to date. It was also hard, but for kind of different reasons at that time. I was missing those family members as well, but the mommying was a very difficult season. So I was kind of going through a season of, I suck as a mother. Therefore, since it affected everything, I kind of felt like I sucked as a wife. And I probably feel, even now, I can look back and go, man, was I even really available to him going through all this? But
I can make appointments.
The hardest season for me was 3 years ago. You had surgery, fell and broke your face. And my mom was dying in Texas, and my dad was also dying at the time. And so I was traveling back and forth a lot. I was just very busy, lots of grief, lots of stress. And you're just going, I mean, talk about a storm.
Yeah.
And then even coming through that, it's like you're just kind of leveled, and how, breathing becomes
Right.
difficult. So, yeah, some of the things getting me through at the time were just remember to breathe. And you were always so supportive. Probably much more attuned to my needs than I may have been back in the early 2000s, because I was so snowed by mommying as well.
Oh, I think that we tend to blame ourselves for things that don't exist.
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't blame ourselves when we should. But I think that in that case, you were just doing the best you could, as I was, and we were coping the best we knew how at the time. And I think that might be a good thing to remember for everybody, that even though hindsight is 2020, as they say, you can look back and see where you screwed up,
Mhm.
and you may cringe at some of the memories you have of, I wish I'd handled this differently, said this instead of this.
Mhm.
But at the time, you were doing what you thought was right. May not have been right, but you were doing your best at the time. So, um, it's hard to blame anybody for that.
Yeah, and we're both third child.
Hmm.
Kind of came along in an era in our lives as kids that we tended to be I won't be any trouble. I won't be any
I'm
trouble.
just here for the food.
I'll smile and I won't cause any more trouble, because there
Mhm.
were stresses in family life, of
Mhm.
course, growing up. So I tend to think default, um, that he and I both tend to sometimes not communicate, or especially probably you even more than me. I think it sometimes shows
Hmm.
physically, because he wants to be the rock and the supporter. He does that so well. And I'm very verbal processing, and he probably thinks, well, there's not room for both of us to be blabbing here, but very supportive of me. But I think sometimes I'm just not self-absorbed. I admit it. I can be self-absorbed, and
Rewind the video about 2 minutes and then listen to what I said, and you'll be fine.
I'm doing it again, aren't I? Anyway, some of the one of the big things that we've purposed since the beginning, and I think it probably helped carry us through this time, even though we can both tend to shove down and probably not communicate because we don't want to be a problem, or we do want to take on, it's all my fault. We agreed early on that we didn't want to devour each other during hard times. I think there's a balance you can find of, I won't attack you because I'm hurting,
Mhm.
but also I will communicate and not withdraw. Um,
Mhm.
so I think sometimes we still are finding that balance. And there have been times I've just had to admit, I haven't been communicating.
Mhm.
I'm feeling dead, and I don't want to add more stress to you, but um, we need, we need to just fight through it together.
I think that, yeah, I mean, the takeaway for me is that just stay in each other's corner,
Mhm.
no matter what you're going through personally. If it's something you're going through alone, stay in your significant other's corner.
Mhm.
Let them be in your corner. Don't push them out of the corner, because you need that support, whether you think you do or not.
Yeah.
And then if it's something they're going through, and maybe you completely understand their situation, then it's easier to support them. But if you don't understand everything they're going through, because I know that the grief process for you has been significantly different
Mhm.
from your parents to my family members. in the 2000s, I remember thinking at times, gosh, she's still grieving. And everybody processes that differently. Everybody has their way to process that and cope with it. And the point of it being is just be there, just stay there.
And there's not a right or wrong way.
No.
To anyway, there's not a right or wrong way to process grief. And sometimes I would beat myself up going, I'm still grieving. But you can't, there was trauma that has to be shoved down. I talked about this the other day. Sometimes just trauma has to be shoved down because life doesn't give you time.
Yeah, you need to go
to handle it in a healthy way and go to that therapist and not, So, and grief just will rear its ugly head when you least expect it. Triggers, things like that. So, anyway, we have to make this quick this morning because actually I have a memorial to go to. You've got to get to work. So that's why we came on early. Grace, we see you. I wish we could bring you on, sweetheart. We're about to have to shut this down so you can get to work, but maybe we can FaceTime later. Anyway, if any of that helped you, if you have tips for us that help you get through, we're still learning and growing. We do not have it all together. And I even hesitated to bring out Great Love for Life because it was in the middle of a very, very tough season. And I did not feel I had all the answers. And every day, it was just difficult. And
Do you mean this book here? By Shauna Kiefer?
Yeah, it's a good book.
That one?
Yeah, lots of blood, sweat, and tears in that one, but fun. Guys, this guy can make me laugh just about any time. Don't forget, even if you're in the middle of a struggle. I know we have a dear friend whose sister's going through cancer, and you can almost feel guilty to still be yourself, to still have jokes, to still laugh. But don't be afraid to be that, because that can be a lifeline to your loved one going through hard times. I mean, you can be sensitive, but life goes on, even when part of you feels like it shouldn't, because
it's easy to feel guilt for laughing at something or enjoying a moment, but those things are healing. And we've got to remember that laughter is healing a lot faster than other things.
So anyway, love you. Have an amazing day. We have to sign off. Please tell us you were here. Tell us if you got to watch it live or replay, and give us your best tip for couples in struggle or just any relationships. We have to know how to communicate, how to get through in a healthy way.
Totally.
So have a good day. End that one. I'll end this one, and then we'll end this one.